Hello and welcome to the Savage Stream, the weekly live stream where we talk all things Star Trek. And today we are reviewing Season 1, Episode 8 of Starfleet Academy. I'm super excited to get into this one because last week's episode was, I started out feeling it was kind of meh. And then after reviewing it with you guys last week, for those of you who were here live or saw it on the replay, I was very boo. I was just not a fan of it in any way, shape, or form. And my experience of this week's episode is the opposite. So I'm excited to talk about this week's episode because I really enjoyed it. And I just can't wait to relive it with you. So before we get started, I want to say hello to everybody who's here live. Hello to everybody who's watching on the replay. If you are watching on the replay, timestamps will be below so you could jump ahead at any time. In addition, if you have not yet seen this episode, go ahead and pause this live stream, go watch one of the other live streams, go watch the episode, and then come back and watch this episode because it's going to be nothing but spoilers, all the spoilers. I'm going to go through all the scenes that were really memorable to me and tell you my thoughts, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. But if you haven't seen it yet, that might not make quite as much sense. Also, what was the other thing? I am also hosting a watch party. At the time of this recording, I'm hosting a watch party in a couple of weeks. And so I would love to know what you think we should watch. So I'm going to drop the link for the poll in the chat. And if you have not yet shared your opinion, I don't know if that's going to become a hyperlink. I think so. But if you've not yet shared your opinion, I would love to know your thoughts on what we should watch during the watch party. Okay, so, oh, by the way, if you're a channel member, drop a Moopsie in the chat because this episode gave me all the feels and I think Moopsies are adorable. Adorable, terrifying, but adorable. Okay, so let's start with initial thoughts. Last week, I predicted that this week's episode would be medium stakes, I think is what I called it. Not quite as high intensity as the finale probably will and should be, but also not as low stakes as last week's nonsense. I suppose last week's episode was supposed to have stakes. I was supposed to super care about Darum's wedding to Rando Girl, and I was supposed to super care about Genesis, deleting some lines from her reference letters. But I didn't really care. I didn't feel like there was anything on the line. So maybe they were supposed to be super high stakes, but I just didn't feel it. This week, I definitely felt more stakes. But yeah, it wasn't anxiety inducing. What's going to happen? Everyone on the crew is going to die. It wasn't like the episode with the Furies, which was 2 weeks ago at the time of this recording. Yeah, so I predicted that this week's episode would be somewhere in the middle, and I think it was. And then also from the thumbnail, I was like, okay, the thumbnail, it may change later on, but currently the thumbnail is Tareema and Caleb sitting on the floor, kind of curled up into one another. So I was like, okay, I guess in this episode, Tareema comes back, and I guess she's back with Caleb, and I guess all is well. All is forgiven, we're good. Okay, this is my prediction. This is going to be oh, Tareema's back, and it's just fine. And then I also knew Tilly was coming back because last week, just opening my phone, looking up whatever, Star Trek news often comes up because I search Star Trek a lot on Google and it knows that. So the first thing that popped up when I opened my phone was Tilly's back. And so I was like, okay, I guess Tilly's coming back. So I did that last week. But I was kind of curious about how she was going to come back because my picture of this show before it aired was that it was going to be the Tilly show. The same way that my picture of Section 31 was it's the Michelle Yeoh show. I mean, it's the George Yeoh show. That was my picture. It's going to be the George Yeoh show with extras coming in and out throughout the, from Section 31 and all these different worlds and whatever. So that's what I thought the Academy was going to be. I thought it was going to be the Tilly show. And I don't know if it ever was going to be the Tilly show or if that was just my impression. But it definitely has not been the Tilly show at all. If anything, it's been the Reno show. And so I was like, how are they going to introduce her? Are they going to just tell us that she's been here all along? We just haven't seen one of her classes yet. That's kind of what I was thinking. My initial thoughts was okay, we'll get to see Tilly. Maybe she was just, she's been at the Academy this whole time. She was just on another floor or something. That's why we didn't see her during any of the drills or various crises, etc. Okay. So I'm just checking the chat really quick. Hello, hello, hello. Love seeing all the moopsies in the chat. So cute. Okay. So Act 1, the setup. This episode starts with a monologue, which last week's episode did as well, and maybe every single week's episode begins with a monologue, and I just haven't been paying attention. But this time the monologue was from the Doctor. So I was like, ooh, we're finally going to get backstory on the Doctor. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Hold on. your comments are not showing up on screen. What is going on? So normally right here, we should be able to see every single person's comments, and that is not happening. Oh, I don't like that. I want to see what you guys are saying. Okay. I just now noticed that. I'm not sure how to fix that, but give me 1 second. Oh, that's such a bummer. Huh. Okay. All right, I just took it off for now. that legitimately brought down my mood of having, like, not being able to see you guys' comments on screen. I can still see them, but, like, I want us all to see them at the same time. It's fine. I'll fix it for next week. Moving on. So it starts off with the doctor's monologue, and I was like, yes, we're finally going to get the backstory of the doctor, because the doctor was very grumpy when he first got activated in Voyager, understandably so. 1, he was just supposed to be a supplement, but he ended up becoming the main doctor for everything. 2, he didn't have a lot of freedoms. People would leave his program on when they would leave. People talked around him or about him even while he was standing there. So he didn't get a lot of respect. And then 3, I think he just wasn't programmed with very good bedside manner. And then 4, I think they wanted to keep the whole, like, Bones McCoy is such a salty, doctor bit going. So they had salty doctor. But by the time we get to the end of season 7, the doctor is the opposite of that, right? He's the one teaching Seven about humanity. And he's the one who's, like, kind of charming in his own way. And he's fallen in love, and he's had a family a couple of times, and he has friends, and, he's more well-rounded as a person. So that was like, yay, look at the doctor's evolution. I think he's one of the characters who evolves the most throughout his arc. Then when we get to Academy, he's back to being really salty, but now he's, like, bitter. Before, when he was activated in Voyager, he was salty just, like, because he was programmed that way. But now it's like life has made him this way, and he's been around for a long time. So it's kind of like, what happened, So when he starts the monologue about time and all this stuff, like, time moves around me and I'll still be here and all these things, I was like, oh, great, we're going to finally get to find out what has happened between season 7 of Voyager returning back to Earth, and then, now, oh, look, that's still showing up. What's going on? What's going on with my connections here? But yay, thanks, PS2 Chipper. So you can grab yourself a membership if you are here. It looks like they're all grabbed up. Okay, well, thank you. It's like you put up 5 and 5 are gone. So shout out to PS2 Chipper for the support. By the way, I think to PS2 Chipper, you should watch this episode. It's very good. I think you would like it, because I know you're kind of on the fence about. It did improve my mood. Thank you. I know you're on the fence about this show, but this episode, I think you would like it. Okay. And you already have all the context because you've been listening to these live streams. So anyways, I was wondering what all happened to the doctor. Like, what's all he's been through? How did he survive the burn, etc. Okay, next we see Terima show up. It turns out that Terima's back. She's better. She has a new and improved evolved implant, like whatever the thing is called, that regulates her emotions. And this time it's not, like, physically inserted into her body. It can just stick on her neck with magic, and it works even better. So now if she's in some kind of, fugue state and she rips at it, it won't pull out nerves from her neck. So that's a good thing. That's a bonus. That's a plus. You did enjoy season 3 of Picard, right? But season 2, okay, but season 3 was good though. Was good. Yeah. It was fan service. That's why it was good. It was just, like, giving us what we wanted. But anyways, so this new and improved thing is great. It's going to help her control her powers better without injuring herself if she wants to use those powers. But the doctor does warn her, hey, that whole psychic explosion you did to kill the Furies, don't do that again. Like, you've depleted your psychic powers and you're back down to 0. And if you do that again, it's going to hurt you in some way. He didn't really elaborate on that, but it was just like, make sure you don't do that again. Once again, I kind of don't feel... Okay, so let me know what you think. But this to me feels like, do you remember the episode in Voyager where they used the slipstream drive? It was the episode with Arturis. I think it was called Hope and Fear. And Arturis was like, look, this new ship, the Dauntless or something, has been sent from the Federation, and you need to leave your ship and come to this ship, and it'll take you home in, like, days or whatever. And they were like, oh, that sounds too good to be true. Let's try to like refit Voyager so it has the technology, da-da-da. And then everything goes down with Arcturus that goes down. But they have the technology on Voyager. They ride the slipstream, and I think they get like 10 years closer to Earth or something like that. But then afterwards, they're like, we've decided that the slipstream is just too darn dangerous. So we're going to dismantle it and never use it again. Back to the slow way home. You know, and it's like, because they had to, they couldn't have Voyager get back in season whatever that was. What was that, like season 5? You know, they needed to have the whole journey of the show, and the whole show is about them getting home. So if they got home, the show's kind of over. We don't want to see what's their life like on Earth. At least I don't want to see that. I want to see the journey, right? So they had to come up with some reason for why they couldn't just use this life-saving technology to get home faster. And that was what they came up with. I feel like the same thing's going on here, where they're like, okay, Tarima, you use that like wild card where you could use your psychic energy to kill things through Caleb's mind connection. But you can't do that again because you've depleted all your psychic energy and you can't use that again. And I kind of feel like, I don't know. I feel like we needed that in Voyager. We needed them to not have an easy out. We needed them to not have an easy excuse to use that technology to get home in a short amount of time. But do we need that here? Is there any reason why Tarima cannot keep her superpowers? I guess for the same reason that, it'll make winning too easy. But if you think about it, her main weapon is a sonic blast. And it was successful because the bad guys were bats. And they were really sensitive to sounds. But is it going to work against Noose Braga? I don't think so. Is it going to work against like any other bad guys they come upon that don't have sensitive ears? I don't think so. And they did say, the whole reason why she has this little implant thing is because she blew out her father's eardrums when she was really mad. So like, I guess in theory she could blow out anyone's eardrums at any time. But like, okay. I don't know. Is that something that's like, oh man, that's such a, that superpower is just too overpowered. We can't allow her to have that power. I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I feel like that wasn't necessary, but whatever. That's what they did. It does save it as a noble sacrifice trope in the future. I guess so. Wingray says, I think she'll keep them. She just needs to control them so they aren't massive over the top outbursts, that they're just like less extreme. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I feel like she should just have that superpower. Like she has it. She should just be able to use it. I don't see how this would, meaning I don't see how in the scope of the show, this would be like such an advantage that it just would make the story writing too easy. But I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. So I guess we'll see. Turns out she has also, not only does she have the new and improved implant, but in addition, she has been transferred to the academy for reasons. She's no longer in the War College. She has been transferred to the academy. So I missed this. So if you know why, would it work against the Breen? Maybe. I mean, blowing out the eardrums would work against anybody, but I feel like the Breen would keep fighting. I feel like a lot of them would keep fighting. The Jem'Hadar would keep fighting. Klingons would keep fighting, because they're not part bat. They're not totally just, their heads shouldn't explode. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe anyone's heads could explode with her sonic power. The kids from the Miyazaki incident all have a bunch of trauma. So as Tarima is like kind of getting acclimated to now she's a part of the academy. Oh, and the question I was asking was, why is she a part of the academy? Like, why exactly is she a part of the academy? I know she went through this situation with the Miyazaki. She exploded a bunch of people's heads. She had to go get rehab back on Beta Z. She's here now. Did they transfer her because the kids at the War College are afraid of her now? Did they transfer her because they think war is not the right option for her? Like, I just don't understand why she was transferred. I don't understand at all, because both War College cadets and Academy cadets were a part of the Miyazaki kidnapping situation. So if we're talking about we want her to not be looked at like a weirdo, she's going to be looked at like a weirdo regardless. If we're talking about we don't want her to, like feel out of place, taking her from her friends in the War College and putting her in the academy is making her out of place. Do we feel like her being in a War College is just training her to use her powers for evil or something? Like, I don't know. Was that explained in a way that like I missed? For some reason she's been transferred. For some reason she has to bunk with Genesis and Sam, because there's no other rooms in the entire academy. And so that's a thing. So as, Ake and the doctor are just like welcoming her to the academy, like, we know this is different, now you're in a new place, but we're here for you, get the trauma treatment, yada, yada, yada. And she's just like, great, thanks, bye. And as she's walking, she just sees like everybody's looking at her and they're like, everybody's just like throwing shade her way. At least this is her perspective. At the same time, we see Darum just starting crap with people, just trying to fight people because that's what Darum does. And again, in this scene, granted it's like a 10-second scene, right? But in this scene, they look over. Darum is walking through a crowd of people. He bumps this kid, and then he turns to the kid and he's like, what? You want to run into me? What you want to do? And the kid's just like, and he's like, yeah, that's what I thought. And he walks away. And I thought Chancellor Ake was going to say something to him or whatever. I mean, I work with kids. So like, you see something like that, you see something, you say something. But these are adults, young adults, but adults. So I guess you just like let them be dicks to each other because that's not your job to handle that. But with younger kids, it is your job to like step in and help with the social skills and stuff. So anyways, they see that and they're like, and Ake's like, they really need to do the trauma treatment because everybody's like on pins and needles. They're just like at the max of what they can handle. But my thought in this 10-second scene was really Darum was going to be the patriarch of his entire home planet. This guy who's trying to start fights in the freaking hallway. Well, he looked like running a whole world. This makes less and less sense every time I think about last week's episode. Why is he going to be the leader of this planet? This makes no sense. Anyways, all of this is just kind of the setup about trauma and like dealing with their issues. So Ake's like, I've got a plan, a secret, the secret plan that's totally going to work to help these kids process their emotions. And her plan is to call Tilly in to teach a drama class. So she's just going to take the kids from the Miyazaki, not the War College kids. So, Kyle, I guess you're on your own. But all the rest of the kids who are in the academy, she's going to bring them together in a drama class and help them like process all of their emotions. But they're going to think it's a class when really, sneakily, she's helping them through their trauma and grief. Okay, I'm going to check the chat before going to the next part. The Breen are sensitive to frequencies. Are they? I guess I missed that part about the Breen. DJ Magic says, I think she was transferred to keep her from physically stressful situations. Okay. Like removing her from boot camp and making her go to college. Yeah, that is a fair point. That is a fair point. And Wingrace says they said it was because they didn't offer the safer science tracks in the War College, only in the academy. Plus to keep her extra safe. Okay. Okay. It's funny that they're trying to keep her safe when like everybody's trying to keep themselves safe from her, right? She's the walking bomb or whatever, but they're trying to keep the walking bomb safe. That's funny. Yeah, I thought I heard the doctor say it'd be better for her, interfering less stressful or something. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So she was transferred because you're right, like the whole boot camp thing. She's not in boot camp now. She's now in college. So she's not going to be undergoing any of these like combat drills or whatever that I guess might tempt her to use her psychic powers. However, if the goal is controlling said powers, shouldn't she have more opportunities to practice using them safely? I don't know. Teacher thoughts. DJ Magic says Darren is acting like he just watched the Boondocks from Starfleet Archive broadcast of Adult Swim on the Cartoon Network. PS2 Chipper, did you just look that up about the Breen? Because that's funny. Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yes, in Deep Space Nine, they talked about how the Breen get like extra cold or whatever, which is why they were working on that moon with the Bajorans that was hot or something like that. I do vaguely remember something about that. Okay, Act 2. I call this The Drama Begins. So Tilly's class starts and she's like, I'm going to be teaching you theater, blah, 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 blah. And all the cadets are like, what the actual F? And she tries to tie it into how it's going to help them be better Starfleet officers with some BS that none of them believe. But she's like, oh, because this will help you with like negotiations or flexibility or whatever she was saying. This will help you think on your feet. I don't know how she was trying to sell it to him, but sell it to them. But it was a very thin connection between taking theater class and being a great Starfleet officer, but she made a connection. And Sam is super excited about it, as she is always about everything. So Sam is like, yes, theater, yes, I'm excited, woohoo. She's like super into it. And Tilly has the students each propose a play that the entire class could do. And Sam's like, "Ooh, I like this play. It's called whatever. It's about such and such and such." And so Tilly's like, "Yep, I like that one. Like, we'll go with that play." And while Sam is talking about how excited she is about the play, she just starts like glitching like crazy, and she falls to the ground, and like just all of her is just all glitching. So it turns out all of the treatments she's been having at the holographic spa or whatever have not been working. They've worked enough to stabilize her, right? Because she was like, "Yeah, I know, favorite. Oh, favorite. Yes." And Tilly's like immediately like, "Favorite." And I wondered at that moment if they knew when they were making the show that people would think she was a fan favorite. Because certainly they were testing this show with, hopefully they were testing this show with real people watching to like make adjustments to it or whatever. But I wonder if they knew that she would be a fan favorite like when they wrote this episode. Anyways, So she starts glitching out. So it did help her, but it didn't actually fix her because she's still glitching. So she falls to the floor and everyone's like, "Sam, no!" And then in the next scene, we see Sam being looked over by the doctor, which is what we all said, right? We said that last week. We said that the week before when the damage was taken. We were like, I remember I was on a whole soapbox about this. I was like, why wasn't the doctor the one scanning her? Why wasn't he the one helping her? Not only is he a doctor, not only is he the doctor, in my opinion, the best doctor in the galaxy, but also he's a hologram. So he actually knows about holographic systems and things. Like, he is the person. He's the guy. He's the person who should be helping her. Why wasn't he there? And then last week, remember we were all talking about like, yeah, they should have gone to Cask and they should have found a way to fix Sam. And there should have been some like collaboration or maybe some war tension between Cask and the Federation and da-da. That is this episode. We did get that. We didn't get the war. We didn't get the conflict between the Federation and the Cask, other than like some snarky words. So we didn't get that, but we did get those things that it was like, we should have done that. Like, we should have done that. And in fact, I kind of wish they did that last week and not what they did. Like, this episode was really good. Last week's episode, I just feel like I don't know. This is what I wanted to see. This is what I want to know about. So anyways, the doctor's scanning her and is just like, I can't help her. Like, we can't help her. I don't know what to do. And Sam's like, well, how about we go to Cask? The makers are there. They can help. And the doctor's like, well, we can't go. It's a whole planet of photonics. They don't just like have guests or visitors. Their whole thing is they are a very xenophobic people because they were mistreated by the organics that made them 1,000 years ago or however long Cask has been around. So Ake is like, well, we'll go with her. And then having Federation escorts, they'll be less likely to, I guess, kidnap her and keep her on Cask forever. I'm not sure what the plan was if they decided like to keep her. I don't know what Ake and the doctor were going to do exactly, but she was like, we need to go with her. So we're going with her. And the doctor's like, ugh, fine. So they go on an away team to Cask, and Sam tells them that her planet has this time dilation effect going on, so that every 3 days on Earth is equivalent to 5 years on Cask. So time goes really, really fast. While she's away, Tilly selects her play for the class to do, kind of in honor of her. And before Sam left, Sam had requested, she wrote like on a data pad, she had requested that Tarima play the main lead in this play. So Tarima's going to play the lead of like this ghost girl who's forced to live a life that she didn't choose and had to take desperate measures to escape it. So it's very fitting. And it's like Sam chose this on so many different levels, and it's just the perfect fit. And because it was Sam, Tarima can't say no, right? She like has to face it, because it's like, if she doesn't, then she's being a dick, which actually Genesis says to her. She's like, great, Sam gave me a toothbrush, but gave you the lead in the play. And Genesis is like, you can do it if you want. And she's like, no, she wanted you to do it. Don't be a dick. Like, honor her request, especially when she's off, she's sick, we don't know if she's coming back, like do this for her. So Tarima's like, okay. All right, Act 3. I call this Tarima Crashes Out. This entire time, Tarima has just been very distant and kind of weird and pretty mean. This was the second episode for me, the same show drama, where Sam's side was Star Trek, the theater side was Dawson's Creek or something. Yeah. So Tarima's just crashing out, and she, understandably so, she just is feeling so out of place and doesn't know what she's doing here, and just feels like the ghost girl who has no autonomy in her life, which is true. I mean, she's the daughter of the leader of the Beta Z homeworld. So yeah, she's a princess. She doesn't have a lot of choice. That's what it means to be a part of the royal family, except for Darum had all the choice. So I don't know, I guess it depends on the family. Anyways, it's kind of awkward that they have her now bunking with Genesis and Sam. At least it felt awkward to me. But they did the same thing with Occam, where they just crammed him in the room with Darum and Caleb. And it's like, okay, so, whatever. At one point, so she comes back, and then they find out in the drama class, Caleb finds out that Tarima's coming. And he's like, what? She's back? Oh my gosh, he's all excited. And then she comes to class, and he's like, hey. And she just looks at him and just like looks away and goes and sits down. And he's like, wait, did I do something? So later on, he corners her in the hallway, and he's just like, hey there, you're back, and now you're part of the academy. Like, this is so exciting. And then she just like, she looks away. Actually, he's talking to her on this side, and she's just like he's not there. And he's like, did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? And she's like, he's like, why won't you talk to me? And she's like, what am I supposed to say? And just walks off. And he's like, I don't know what I did. I don't know what you did either, dude. But like, So then after all of this kind of cold shoulder, ignoring him, making sure she sits away from him and all this stuff, she gives him a call. She gets drunk and gives Caleb a booty call in, where were they? Was that some kind of zoo or terrarium? I don't know. In some random place in the academy. And so Caleb shows up, and she is just wasted off her behind. And she tries to hook up with him, which is where we get the little thumbnail from the beginning. So she's like, come on, Caleb, I know you want me and all this stuff. And she's like throwing herself on him. And he's like, at first he's kissing her and stuff too. But then when she's going way too far, he's like, hey, you're drunk. I do not want to take advantage of you. And then she gets super pissed because she's like, how dare you, reject me, right? And she's like, you've been leading me on this whole time. I thought you liked me. Now all of a sudden you don't want me. Oh, it's because I'm a freak. It's because this. It's because that. And he's just like, whoa, I didn't say any of that stuff. And so she's just like going off. And then she turns on him and she says something really mean, which I don't remember what it was, but it was something mean. And then Caleb was like, hurting me is not going to make you feel better. And she's just like, that's not true because I feel fantastic. And he's just like, whatever. And he leaves. So I just want to park here for a minute. Not on this whole conversation because it's dumb. But what I thought was really interesting, weird, out of place was that Caleb had such emotional maturity for him to be like, you're drunk. I don't want to take advantage of you. And for him, and especially for him to say, hurting me is not going to make you feel better. That is a level of emotional maturity that some people never reach. And I'm just like amazed at how he could possibly know that or understand that or comprehend that, especially given his upbringing. He was raised apparently by, I don't know, pirates or something. We don't know what happened to him. He was 10 years old when he snuck out into a dust storm to avoid being taken by the Federation back to Bajor. So, to be raised. So we don't know who has raised him from then till the time that Ake found him. However many years later, was like 15 years later. But when we do see him again, wait, 15, is that too many? However many years later it is that we see him. But when we do see him, he's like breaking into a prison to try to find his mom. So he's still living a life of crime, and he's just gotten even better at it. So if there was a person like that in real life, my picture of that person would be that they would be very emotionally stunted. Because it's not like they have stability. It's not like they have people to teach them these moral lessons. They are scrappy. They are fighting for their lives. They're living on the street. They're being taken in by whoever will take them in. They're learning some of the things that he has, like the instincts to know when he's being played. He should absolutely know that. Like, he should have all the street smarts. He should know how to read a situation. He should know how to read emotions. He should know how to know exactly what people are thinking just by looking at them. He should have all those skills from that kind of upbringing. But what he shouldn't have is this like emotional intelligence to say, hurting me is not going to make you feel better. He should know that. He should lash back out and be like, what? You're going to say that about me? I'm going to say this about you. He should be just as much. He should be even more immature than Tarima's acting right now. Just based on his upbringing. That's a very minor point because honestly, do I want to see two kids bickering? No. Did I even want to see two kids making out? No. But that just struck me. And maybe it's because I'm a teacher. I don't know. But like that line, I was like, that is so mature. There's many adults who I don't think would catch that, because they just say mean things when they're hurt. And that's what people do. So I don't know. It's a little bit of like, just gave me a little pause. And back in drama class, before that. And then Tarima eventually stumbles back to her dorm room drunk. And Genesis is very, like, lovely. Apparently she has a lot of experience with drunk kids. And so she's very lovely and, like, helps Tarima stumble and climb up into her bunk and, sits and holds her hand while she goes to sleep. It's pretty sweet. But in that moment, they have another conversation where basically Tarima admits to Genesis that she's jealous of her, and she didn't realize that her and Caleb were an item or whatever, or liked each other. And Genesis was like, we're just friends. And Tarima was like, oh, well, I guess I couldn't tell how good friends you were from the war college. I just couldn't tell. And Genesis is just like, okay. It's just really weird and awkward. And then she goes to sleep while Genesis is holding her hand. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Back in drama class, Tilly's kind of like massaging and pushing the cadets to explore their big feelings. And Tarima just loses her crap. She loses it. And she's like, can't you guys see what she's doing? She's forcing us to relive our drama, all of our trauma, and dump it everywhere and go through the hard stuff. And I don't feel like doing it. And da-da-da-da-da. And Tilly's just like, just starts pushing on her then. And then she's like, no, leave me alone. And Tilly's like, just keeps pushing. And she's like, no, say what, she's like, this is what's going on. Da-da-da. And Tilly says, well, basically Tarima yells and she's like, I am the ghost girl. I don't need to do this play to know what it's like. I am the ghost girl. This is my life and I don't get to make choices and blah, 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 blah. And Tilly's just like, look, I'm sorry about what happened to you. And unlike the ghost girl, you have choices to make. You can come back. You don't have to stay away from everybody and close your heart. And she didn't say all this part, but like, you don't have to like close your heart and become this like hardened person and run away to Beta Z and never see the academy again. Like you can come back. You can come back into this, to these relationships, to these people. You can come back to your life despite what you've been through. And she was just like, and Tilly's like, and I know everybody in this room would want you to, and she looks around and Occam's like smiling, like, yeah, I want my sister back, and Caleb's smiling like, yeah, you were a total jerk to me, but I still like you, and Genesis is like, yeah, you were a total jerk to me too, but I still like you also, everybody's kind of smiling like, supportively, like, yeah, come back, Tarima, stop being a jerk, and like, we'll still be your friends. And she looks around at everybody and she's like, I just can't. And she runs out of the room crying. And you're like, well, they tried. Okay, I'm going to check the chat before we go to the next parts. Oof. DJ Madcus says, Caleb's lines seem like they were written by another character and reassigned to him, and the writer thought that no one would notice. Yeah, that is perfectly put. I'll lift up my microphone a little bit. That is perfectly put, because that line was just weird. It was just weird coming from Caleb, and I think it would make more sense coming from, I don't know, I guess the doctor or Ake, but both of them were on an away mission, right? So they couldn't say it. I can't imagine Reno saying that. I can't imagine Thok saying it. So maybe they just ran out of characters who would make sense coming out of their mouths. Yeah, but that's a good point. Okay, Act 4. I call this Sam Crashes. This is where the emotional toll just like hit me so hard, hit me like a ton of bricks. So meanwhile, on the way to Cask, Sam was talking about something. I don't remember what she's talking about, but the doctor kind of belittles her, like, oh, that doesn't matter or whatever. And then Sam gives this whole speech about all the things she wants to experience in her life. And she's like, don't tell me it doesn't matter. She's like, I want to fall in love, and I want to hang out with my friends, and I want to laugh, and I want to, eat delicious food, even though I can't taste food. And she's just like going, like just of life. She's like, even if I only have a short amount of time to live, I just want to live it. I want to experience it. And she gets so emotional that she starts glitching again really bad. And the doctor's like, have a seat and go to sleep. Like, you need some rest. Stop stimulating yourself. And so she goes to lay down, and the doctor and Ake are just kind of like looking at each other. And so it seems like whatever's wrong with her is somehow connected to her big emotions that she's not processing, or it's just making her worse. So when they get to Cask, the makers tell Sam that they need to swarm her in order to fix her, or in order to diagnose her and fix her. So by swarm, that means that she needs to allow them to take over all of her systems and then to see what's wrong in order to fix it. And she's understandably very nervous about this, because that means she won't have any ability to do anything. So she looks over at the doctor and she's like, will you please hold my hand? And the doctor's just like, and she's like, please. And he's just like, and you're like, oh man, like, you're like, just hold her hand, dang it, like she's scared. And then you just see Chancellor Ake, she's just like, you know, she knows this moment is just, and she can't say anything. She can't like order him to hold her hand or something like that. But she's just witnessing this moment of the doctor just like turning his back on Sam in her moment of need. And it's hard to watch. And Sam just like puts her hand back down. You just see the tears streaming from her face. And she goes, I'm ready, I guess. It's like, oh man, like that already, exactly. It's out of character for the doctor, because the doctor in this show is very, just his heart is just hard. He's just not, he just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. And you know how the doctor usually, like, if he has a patient, even if the patient's a bad guy, right? Because remember that episode when B'Elanna had like that parasite on her face or something like that, and he made a holographic Cardassian like war criminal doctor, but this war criminal doctor knew about this parasite or whatever, and he was like, hey, like, you know, I'm doing what I need to do to save my patient. He was very like, he cared about people, he cared about his patients. But here he's just, in this entire show, he just doesn't care. But it's not like he doesn't care, like he couldn't care less, but it's more like he's trying really hard not to care. And that's what's going on. He's trying really hard not to care. So anyways, she's all crying and she's like, I guess I'm ready. And she goes and sits down and they swarm her. And then the makers are like, unfortunately, this unit is damaged beyond repair. So Sam, terminate. And she just like terminates and she dies. She dies on the table. I was like, this was as shocking as when Bobby died in that episode where the Furies like shot him in the chest. And you're like, what the F is going on? Like, I just don't expect cadets to die. Honestly, don't expect anyone to die on the show except for like random bad guys. You know, I expect ships to blow up and presumably their entire crew died, but you don't like see them or know them or have any connection to them. It's just kind of this nebulous idea. So when they were just like terminate and she just like falls back down, I was like, oh, I know they're not going to kill this character permanently, but I'm not quite sure how they're going to revive her, because I know they're not going to kill this character permanently, you know? So I'm like, what is going on? And Ake is like, and the doctor, they're both like, wait, you can't terminate her. There's got to be some other way. There's got to be some kind of fix. And the makers are like, no, her program is fried. And they even say it took us, what did they say? It took us like centuries to make her or something, or decades to make her. What was the quote? Win Grace, you probably remember, but they said it took us however long to make her. And they were like, and it took 3 months of being at the academy for you to break her. So we can't just make a new one. We can't just make a new Sam. And you know, it's your fault that she's like this anyways. And Ake is just like, no, there has to be a way. There has to be a way. So what I thought was going to happen at this point is I thought the doctor was going to volunteer his matrix for Sam and be like, just use mine. Do you remember when he did that it was in Voyager? I want to say it had to be season 1 because Kes was like a part of it. And I don't remember which episode or what was happening, but like his matrix, something was wrong with it. And so they had activated like a holographic, another EMH, but it was like a diagnostic EMH. And its job was to try to help the doctor. And it was like, doctor, you have all this crap in your system, like opera and love, like, okay, it couldn't have been season 1 then, whatever. But you have like opera and all of this stuff in your system that doesn't help you be a better doctor. And now your matrix is like overloaded and that's why it's malfunctioning. And then he was like, you have to delete it. And the doctor was like, but that's what makes me who I am. And so then in the end, Kes was like, well, can't you just graft your matrix onto his to give him more stability? And the diagnostic EMH was like, yeah, I guess so. You know, it was a short life, but I guess it was meaningful. And they just like took his matrix and like compiled it into the doctor so the doctor could be more stable. I thought that was going to happen here. And I was like, oh my gosh, is the doctor going to just like die? Are we going to lose the doctor? Is he going to like sacrifice his matrix to Sam, and then Sam will come back and she'll also have all the memories of the doctor? So I was literally on pins and needles because I knew they were going to bring Sam back, but I was really afraid they were going to get rid of the doctor, which they could because this show's not about the doctor. They didn't, thankfully, because I don't know. I did not take it well when Data died. Nemesis, I did not take it well. I would not take it well if the doctor died. Even in self-sacrifice, like Data did in Nemesis, I would not take it well. So I'm really glad they didn't do that, but I thought that might happen. So I was really like, what are they going to do? So the doctor took a look and kind of like interrogated the swarm a bit and found out that they had not given Sam any ability to process complex emotions. They gave her the ability to experience emotions, but they didn't give her the ability to process emotions. They didn't give her like resilience and like just, you know, comprehensive, just some of those emotionally intelligent things that you get growing up. And so the doctor said that. He was like, oh, you just basically gave her the emotional range of a toddler, threw her into a 17-year-old body, and then put her into the academy. You didn't give her any of the training. that a person would have from age 2 to age 17 to be able to handle all of these complex emotions. And the swarm was just like, well, yep. Or the makers were like, yeah, so we failed her just as much as you. Our bad, And so the doctor's like, well, can't you just fix it? Like, can't you just go back and fix it? And they were like, I mean, we can like do a system restart, like we could do that, like a system reboot or whatever, but it wouldn't be, which is fine, just wouldn't be the same Sam. And Ake's like, nope, it has to be the same Sam. So what can we do about this? And it's kind of, I think it's the doctor's like conclusion that, hey, can you reset her program to the beginning and then give her the time to grow and allow her the ability to learn how to handle all these emotions and how to handle like life and how to handle tough things and how to, because all she's been experiencing is high emotions all the time, right? She's super excited about everything all the time, just like a toddler. It's like ice cream, woo! It's just like everything is so exciting, or like really scary, but it's like really scary. There's no like balance. And so they're like, yeah, we could do that, but we don't have the context to raise her, which is why we just made her as a 17-year-old, because they're not organics. So Ake is like, doctor, I think this is a job for you. You need to raise her. And the doctor's like, no, that's the last thing I want. I've been mean to her this whole show. The last thing I want to do is like be her father figure, like her father at all. And then he comes out with why he's been such a grump. And so he tells her the story about the holographic family he made in the episode. I think it's called Real Life, the Voyager episode. And he says he lost his daughter in that episode, which is one of my favorite episodes. And it also makes me cry a lot. And he said, I lost my daughter in that. And it was so hard to face. And he said, the second I met Sam, like the moment I saw her and her joy and her smile, I was immediately reminded of my daughter. And I just like hardened my heart. And I was just like, no, you can never love again, because if you love anybody, you will lose them. And then Ake was just like, but it's worth loving them, even if you'll lose them. And the doctor was like, nope, I can't do it. And she was just like, seriously? And the doctor was like, yeah, fine, I admit it, I'm a coward. And then Ake is like, no more than me. She's like, I'm a coward too. But anyways, like we were saying, you need to do this for Sam. You need to do this. And you need to face that. And the doctor's like, he finally gives in. He's like, okay, I will do it. I will raise Sam. And she's like, hey, look, it's only going to be 2 weeks. You only have to do this for 2 weeks because of the time dilation. 17 years will pass in 2 weeks. So it's like, you only need to do this for a couple of weeks, but it's like so important to get Sam back. And so the doctor agrees to it. And I'm going to read the chat before I go to the next part. But this whole scene was really emotional. The thing though with the doctor about him being really grumpy or being really like connecting Sam to his daughter and how that's hard for him to face, this part I just felt like rang a little false. And the reason is because I don't remember what season that episode was, Real Life in Voyager. I don't remember what season that was. Maybe it was like 5 or 6 or something. I don't think it was 7. But we don't see this like bitter hardness in the rest of Voyager. So it's like, if this situation made him such a bitter person, he should have been bitter for a really long time. This bitterness seems to have grown over the span of getting back to Earth and now. So I feel like it had to be like a culmination of things that led to this. However, this is a good reason for him to not want to get close to Sam, is that it's like, it reminds him too much of his daughter. But he decides to do it. He goes through with it. Okay, let me check the chat real quick. I think I only missed a couple things. DJ Magic says, I totally saw that the glitches were an emotional reaction after the incident. Some nonverbal foreshadowing. Like every time she got excited, it was like glitch, yeah. PS2 Chipper says, it sounds like the writers only saw a couple episodes of Voyager. No, I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think they based this character, PS2 Chipper, I don't think they based this depiction of the Doctor, I don't think was based on like 2 or 3 episodes of Voyager. I think they're going for a long game strategy with this character, with this kind of legacy character. And I think they tried to remake him into a different personality because they're telling a different story. So, similar to with Deep Space Nine, when we got Worf again, we had Worf in all of TNG and he was one way. When we see Worf in Deep Space Nine, he is a different way. He's still Worf. Yeah, he's still Worf. But we see him differently. Like, he has to evolve as a character instead of being a copy and paste from one show to the next. Now, we could copy and paste Miles O'Brien from TNG to Deep Space Nine, because he didn't really do anything in TNG. Like, he just kind of walked around and was like, hey guys, what's going on? You know, but he didn't really, there weren't a lot of storylines. I'm thinking of like Data's Day where he got married. Okay. Did anything else? Maybe there was the war one, the one when they like went to Romulan space and there was this like captain who said the Romulans had a secret weapon, and then like Picard had to go and catch him or something like that. And we saw a moment between O'Brien and that guy where he was just like, hey, I know you were in a war, but like the war's over, da-da-da. So we saw a little bit of that, but we didn't see much of O'Brien's character. So that way they could just make a whole new character for Deep Space Nine. But when they put in Worf, he had to be different. I think that's what's going on here, is that the Doctor has to be different in order for it to be like a new evolved version. Plus, it's been hundreds of years. He should be different. So that's my thinking. Shout out to PS2 Chipper for gifted memberships and the people who are taking advantage of the memberships. PS2 Chipper says, your argument is valid. I guess it's too early to speculate on the Doctor's character arc. Yeah, I mean, yes, we don't have enough data to see the arc. However, that is one of my questions. What's he going to be like next episode? Is he going to be like a softer Doctor? Like, will he have come back to where he started? I don't know. Or will he still be grumpy or what? I don't know. But I'm excited that he has an arc. It's kind of sad for him to have reached his final form way back when they got back to Earth, right? Like, he should still have more growing and evolving to do. All right, Act 5. The trauma is addressed and healing begins. So, okay, as Act 5 opens up, we get to see this beautiful montage. Actually, hold on. Did I miss anybody else's chat? Yep, I missed some more. Sorry, I got caught up in this whole thing about the Doctor. Going back a little bit. Okay, DJ Magic says, I was kind of annoyed for the Doctor to do that and then thought about it, and it was revealed later my exact thoughts. 2,000 years for us, and make that 2 months for y'all to break her. Oh, that's what it was, 2,000 years. 2,000 years for us. Yeah, poof. Season 3, The Swarm. Patty says, I love how they showed Belle in the montage. I loved the montage so much. I also love the makers. I just love how they look. I love the like translucent space jellyfish look. It's so cool. DJ Magic says, I had to explain that to a friend. The Doctor lost his first family and daughter, then his extended family, the Voyager crew, and then everyone else due to time. I'm not surprised he was shut off to the world. Exactly. But I wanted that. I'm going to say this in the final thoughts again, but I really wanted them to hit on that more. I feel like they didn't hit enough on the fact that he's lost everyone. They were really just like, I lost my daughter and it's really sad. But he's lost so much more than his daughter. He's lost his entire crew. He's lost everything over and over and over. And I feel like they should have at least mentioned it. And he had this long speech about the freaking, the play. He had this whole speech about the, oh gosh, what is it? The not narrator, the stagehand or something in the play. And he's going on and on about the stagehand. They're outside of the world, but they're in the world and they see what's going on, but they're not a part of what's going on. And this whole like, you know, projecting thing, like I'm talking about the stagehand, but I'm talking about myself. I could have just deleted that. I don't think we needed the metaphor quite so tightly. I would have loved to just have the Doctor be direct and just be like, you know what? I've lost everyone. Even if he doesn't mention his family at this point, even if he doesn't mention like the daughter until it's more impactful to the scene. But at this stage, he could be like, I lost Voyager, right? My first home, my first family. Every single person from that ship is now dead. Except for maybe Seven, because she's part Borg, I don't know. But like, you know what I mean? Like that would be like, oh my gosh. And then it'd be like, and then I served on the USS, whatever the heck. But then they were all killed in the burn. And then I served on the blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like something to the effect of like, and now here I am. And I just don't know how much more I can do this. Or something like that. That'd be like, whoa, that'd be such emotional stakes. But instead they focused on the daughter and they just kind of glossed over that. And I also feel like that would be a powerful moment of connection with Ake, because as a Lanthanite, she has the same exact story as the Doctor. She's lived a bajillion years, and she's also lost everyone she's ever loved and known who is not a Lanthanite. So I feel like they could have had some bonding over like, yeah, I know what it's like to lose them, but to keep going or whatever. I would have preferred that over talking about the play and, you know, how they vaguely connect to the play, but whatever. Wingray says the loss of the kid compounded with every person he ever knew and loved crumbling to dust in front of him. Remember, he said in this episode, his memory didn't fade. He remembers his first day on Voyager as clear as 5 minutes ago. Yes, he does say that in his opening montage. And I wanted him to Oh my goodness, Chaotic Truth. Yes, you need to catch up. I will tell you, stage manager. Thank you, DJ Magix. I will tell you, last week's episode was not good. You'll probably hate it like I did. But this week's was super good, and you should watch it. You should watch it. But you can't watch this week's without watching 2 weeks ago, because it's like a part 2 to that. So, yes, dude. So don't keep listening in this live stream. It's going to give you all the spoilers. But go back and watch that, and then you can watch this live stream. Because it's worth watching without the spoilers. So, okay. Act 5. Trauma is addressed and healing begins. We get to see this beautiful montage of Sam. Okay, again, cue the waterworks. First of all, I was already boohoo crying. And then in this scene with the montage, I was just like, I don't know. It was just really sweet and really beautiful. And it starts with like a baby crying in a crib. And you see the doctor looking over and he's like, oh, hey there, sweetie. Hey there. And he like picks her up and he's like cuddling her. And then you see like a toddler taking their first steps. And then you see like a little girl in the field handing him a flower. Just like all these scenes. And it just melted my heart. It's like he did not have that with his daughter in real life. When he created that holographic family, they were already at the ages they were. He didn't have falling in love with his wife. He was just married. He just had kids. There was no, they were born and he raised them and scraped knees and, you know, singing them to sleep at night. It was none of that. It was just like, my family is boom, this age, this time, and it's moving forward. So this was really a first for him. Well, actually, he had the son on that planet in Blink. So presumably he did go through the whole process with that kid and that spouse, partner, or whatever. But here we get to actually see it, right? We get to see like the whole kind of journey, and then it ends with, you know, 17-year-old, and the doctor's like, I'm so proud of you, sweetie, I love you, honey, and all these things. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like he's not only is he kind of like back, but he's like sweeter and gentler and kinder than ever before. So I'm just here for it. I was just here for it. Like, oh man, it got me. I was like, like the whole montage got me. And in like Earth time, it's only been about 2 weeks. So after this montage is complete, they get back on the shuttle and they head back to the academy. Back on the academy, while this montage is going on, the crew, the cadets are unaware of all of this. So they're sitting around and they're just like bummed out, and they're talking about Sam. And they're just like, they're talking about Sam and Tarima, actually, because Tarima's like packing her bags because she's done with this crap. Because remember, she just stormed out from Tilly saying, hey, everybody wants you to come back. You can come back. And she's just like, forget it. And so she's packing her bags. And all the kids are kind of just sitting in the floor somewhere, and they're talking. And Occam is just like, she's going to leave. I know my sister. She's probably packing her bags right now. She's going to leave. And then somebody's like, I think it's Darum, who's like, do you think Sam knew that she was malfunctioning? Because I think she knew. And Genesis was like, she totally knew. She just didn't tell us. She didn't want us to know that anything was wrong. She was trying to like, you know, keep it from us so that she could stay with us, but she had to leave. And then Darum's like, it's been too long. We haven't heard anything back. We have to just like, I think Sam's gone. And Genesis is like, don't you even say those words. Like, Sam is coming back, you know, and they're just all kind of sitting around really bummed. And then Occam gets up and he picks up the play and he starts reading it. And they're all looking like, dude, what are you doing? And he's just kind of like, you know, he doesn't say this, but it's kind of like, for Sam. So he's reading it, and then they're all like, for Sam, and they all get up and they start reading their parts. And again, I was like, like, so they're reading their parts, and they're just like, just honoring her memory, her legacy. They don't know if she's alive or dead. They don't know if she's coming back or not, but they are going to do this darn play, because this is her last request. They're going to do this darn play. So they're reading through the parts, and they're like joking and laughing. They're getting into it. And then suddenly Tarima shows up, and she starts reading her lines, and everyone's just like, yeah, like, cool, you're back. So this is implying that she's kind of maybe not processed everything, but she's come back. Like, she didn't run away. She didn't go back home. She's been like, okay, I can come back. Let me try this again. You know, I don't have to give up, which I think is really wonderful. And she even mentions, sort of like mixed in with her lines, that like, Genesis is the coolest person I've ever known. And, you know, Caleb, I was really mean. Like, she kind of sort of apologizes without actually just apologizing in this scene. And everybody just like accepts her and brings her back, which again is a very high school thing to do, to apologize without apologizing. So like, that's on par. I mean, they're supposed to be young adults, so that's on par with, you know, teenagers, young adults. Later on, Tilly is done with this class. I guess it was a 2-week class. It was a short class. DJ Magic's peak, Dawson's Creek. I guess it was a short class because now Tilly's magic is done. And while they were reading, that's what it was. While they were reading the play, Tilly and Reno are like looking down. They're on a balcony and they're looking down at the kids who are like doing the play after Tarima gives her like sort of half apology or whatever. And then Reno looks over and is just like, "Good job, kid. Like, you did that." And Tilly's like, "Thanks." So her job is done. Class is now over. Trauma has been treated. I get Dawson's Fleet. I love that. Trauma has been treated, apparently. And so she's on her way out. So while she's leaving, because she does work at the academy, but she's with the third years. And I guess the third years don't stay here, ? They stay. I'm not sure. But for some reason, she's leaving to be with the third years. It's like, I don't know what this means. Maybe we'll get understanding once the cadets reach their third year. All I can picture is like Hogsmeade Village. But Tarima stops her and kind of corners her on her way out and just sort of apologizes to her as well, but also without apologizing. And she's just like, "The play is about this and it's about a village, but the village is us and we're the village and it's worth trying and we shouldn't give up and da-da-da-da." And what is she talking about? I literally just rewatched that part before jumping on this call and I was like, what is she even talking about? But she says something like that, which is kind of her way of acknowledging what Tilly has done and that she's going to keep trying and she's not going to give up. And Tilly's like, "Hey, everything that happened to you, it's not your fault. But you already know that. So why do I need to tell you that? What's the point?" You know, and Tarima's like, "Exactly. What's the point?" And they kind of smile at each other. And she's like, "I will see you around, Cadet Sadal," or something like that. And then she leaves. And so I guess, you know, reparations have been made. I'm not sure. And at that moment, the crew, like the other cadets kind of are off to the side talking. And so she looks and she like walks over and it's like, "Yay, we are family." So now she's part of the group. And in our last scene, in our final scene, the doctor drops Sam off to the atrium, like first day of school. And everybody turns and they're like, "It's Sam, it's Sam." Like all the extras on the ship are all excited and they're like, "It's Sam." And then she goes and gives big hugs to everybody and the doctor kind of smiles and he walks away. And I felt like, do you remember the episode, the Sam episode, where when she was walking down the hall, all the cadets in her like fantasy were just like, "Oh, it's Sam." And they were like, "It's her." And they were like clapping when she walked into the room. And it was just like this delusional level of being excited to see her that she had. I feel like this was not her delusion. This was like legit. Like everybody was legitimately excited to see her. Like at a reasonable level. People weren't like applauding or falling down at her feet, but people were just like, "Yeah, like she's back. We're so happy she's back." And they all did big hugs and the doctor was smiling and it was just, I don't know. It was just sweet. It was a sweet way to end the episode. And then Ake does a monologue to close the episode. And I rewatched this too because I was like, "Oh yeah, what did she say?" She's just like quoting the play. So that's why I didn't remember because she says more like stuff that just didn't really connect with me personally. However, the big idea is Sam is back. She didn't die. The doctor didn't die. So I'm happy. It's a win. A win is a win. Okay. So final thoughts. I have a couple of lingering questions about this episode, although I loved it. And honestly, like my final thought was that I was definitely in tears during this episode. I really enjoyed it. I actually also wanted to watch it again as soon as the episode was over. Like the second the credits rolled, I want to rewatch it, which I didn't do, but I wanted to. And the only other time I can remember that I had that impulse was watching Starship Mine. Like watching that episode, it was like, I have to see that again. But usually, even if it's a really good episode, I usually like just sit back and go like, "Okay, that was good." Like I chew on it, I think about it, maybe I talk about it with friends, you know, and then I move forward. But this time I want to start from the beginning. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to watch this again." So I think that makes this one my favorite episode of this entire season so far, because I don't usually have that experience with any show. So that's a good sign. Okay, a couple of things that I still have questions on. Yeah, the way it ended was perfect. It was just a nice, like, kind of reminded me of the old 90s shows like Family Ties or whatever, where it ends with everyone like laughing in freeze frame. It kind of felt like that. And it was which I don't know, just felt like a perfect ending to the tone of this episode. The doctor says in the very beginning, time is a beast. It bites us differently. So I wish this would have been drilled harder, which I already said before. I wanted more. I kind of wanted that to be the focus of the episode, is about time and how time steals from us, or how we enjoy the time we have. And it was mentioned, it's something that Tarima said to Tilly on her way out, of like, we got to enjoy the time we have or whatever. But I kind of wish it was more of a, like, even more clearly of a focus, because I think it's a really powerful message that this episode demonstrates beautifully. So I would have liked it to be like highlighted a little bit more, especially with the doctor, like what you said, Grace, that this loss echoes every loss he's had, and the losses have compounded over the years. I would have liked more on that. Even if it was just him doing a rant, even if it was him standing over Sam and just being like, another loss, another year after year, decade after decade, like just something of him being like, it's too much. Like, I would have appreciated that because I can feel that. And so I wish we would have just gone harder on the like time steals from us all, or we've got to make the most of our time. I wanted a little more of that from the doctor and from Ake, because she's a Lanthanite. She has the same like challenges that the doctor has of losing everyone. And this could have been a real moment between the two of them of like either mirroring each other or echoing back, or just having like a bonding moment to be like, I understand better than anyone exactly how you're feeling. You know, like, I get it. I'm not just saying that. I actually get it. Here's the other question I had. They were on Cask for 2 weeks, which is 17 years Caskian time. So that means Ake was there for 17 years. How did she not go totally insane for she's basically castaway for 17 years, because it seems like, looks like, and maybe this just wasn't clear, I didn't get it, but it seems like the interactions between the doctor and Sam were happening like in the server, for lack of a better word, not like in the holographic reality that was created for the three of them to communicate with the makers. So if that's the case, if Ake wasn't actually around for the 17 years of joy, which it seems like she wasn't because she wasn't in the montage, what was she doing for 17 years? Like, she couldn't have been reading books for 17 years. Like, how did she not go totally bat crazy? Is a question I had. Then also a question I had is, can't digital programs run in accelerated time because they're programs? So not just because Cask lives on a planet that experiences time dilation, but also because the doctor's a program and Sam's a program, can't they even have even more accelerated time? Like, do they need 17 actual years? Am I misunderstanding something? I don't know. I don't know. So that was a question I had. And yeah, I think that the doctor also mentioned blink in this episode. He had mentioned like, oh yes, we did encounter a planet like that where time went faster. And I think he does say, I even started a family there, or some passing phrase of like, he said I experienced an entire lifetime on that planet, or something like that. And then he just kind of like he just like moves on. Like, that would have been a moment to stop, because he hasn't mentioned his daughter yet at this point. This is like when they're on the shuttle heading to Cask. That would have been another moment to be like, not just did he experience an entire lifetime, he had a kid. He had a kid on that planet. Like, you know, that would have been the moment to be like, a little bit more detail than an entire lifetime. Like, what does that entail? You know? But we didn't get that. Okay, I'm going to check the chat and then I have some thoughts on next week's episode. Thoughts, guesses, I guess. Because I really don't know what's going to happen. Exactly, PS2 Chipper. It's the curse of immortality. It's the, oh shoot, what's that vampire movie that's super Interview with the Vampire? It's that whole thing where we have, like, if you've ever seen Interview with the Vampire, the first one, because I'm sure there's been a bunch of reboots, or if you've ever read the book, which apparently it's made about books. It's made from books, which I have not read them. The guy who gets turned into a vampire, I think Tom Cruise's character, was he the good guy or bad guy? I don't remember. But at some point, one of the main vampire guys is talking about this curse of immortality and how it's like everyone I've known like dies and everything else. And then at one point they make a little girl, Kristen Dunst, into a vampire, but they make her into a vampire as a little girl. So she's like, I have womanly desires, but I'm in the body of a child. You know, like, I can never grow up. So not only do I live forever, but I'm also stuck as like a 12-year-old or 8-year-old or however young she was. And I can never even experience certain things in life. Like, it's not possible. And like, how kind of cruel that is. And absolutely, it's a curse of immortality for both the Doctor and Ake. Now, obviously, neither of them are totally immortal. Both of them could be damaged, could be destroyed forever. Like, Ake could die. The Doctor's program could be deleted for sure. But Ake, being biological, will eventually die. The Doctor, however, doesn't have that limitation. So I see the Doctor kind of like Data. And do you remember in the episode where they found Data's head in Time's Arrow, Part 1? Everybody's freaking out about the fact that they found Data's head, because it means that at some point in the future / past, Data dies. And so people are not handling it well. And Data's just like, boop, 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 boop. And Geordi's like, do you need to talk about it? And he's like, not really. And then he's like, do you need to talk about it, Geordi? And he's like, yes, I need to talk about it. Like, don't you feel some kind of way about the fact that we found her head and we know you're going to die? And he's like, well, actually, no, it gives me a sense of completion, because he's like, I always figured that I would outlive all of my friends. And Geordi's like, oh yeah, that's true. That really sucks. And then Data goes, but then I would make new friends. And then Geordi's like, oh yeah, that's true. You would make new friends. And then Data goes, and then I'd outlive them too. And Geordi's like, oh man, yeah, that sucks, you know? And Data's just like, I just thought that would be the way. Like, I just would just keep outliving friends after friends after friends, which is really heartbreaking, right? And because his project with Lal didn't work, he doesn't even have another fellow android who's not a complete psychopath to share this journey with. So I was just thinking that with the Doctor, you know, it's like, I'll make new friends and then lose them, and make new friends and lose them. Data didn't have emotions at the time that he said this. So he was just like, meh, it'll happen, whatevs. But the Doctor does, and always has had emotions, and he knows exactly the pain of loss. And I could see him being like, nope, I'm not making any new friends. I've reached my friend quota because I do not want to lose a single more person. Yeah, totally the curse of immortality. When Grace says, when I said season 3, The Swarm, that was the episode. Oh, I thought you were saying The Swarm, like The Swarm should get their own show. That's what I thought you were saying. Season 3, The Swarm, that was the episode of Voyager where the Doctor swapped his matrix. Oh my gosh. Okay. I could not remember at all which season that was, or why that happened, or what was going on, or like whether that was the A plot or the B plot. Okay. That makes sense, because the Swarm one, that's the one, is that the one where the ship warps? Because I think I skipped that one. Now I wonder if a hologram could exist in the Nexus. Why not? But would they need to? Like, what'd be the benefit? Good question. Patty says, we went to the library to get Our Town, beautiful messages about life. So Our Town is a real play? Okay. I didn't even check. I was just like, I don't know if this is real or not. I'm assumed so because they were quoting it, but they could quote stuff that's fake. I don't know. When Grace says, maybe Ake popped outside for 3 seconds and came back right after 17 years. I know, because it's like, why couldn't she do that? You know, like, if it's going to be 2 weeks and she's going to be on the shuttle anyways, she could just like slip out of Cask for a little bit, have a 2-week vacation, just chilling in the shuttle, like reading books and snacking, and then come on back and be like, all right, guys, you ready to go? But at the end, when she's giving her speech, she says, the Doctor spent 17 years on Cask, and he's not the only one. So she clearly just stayed. She just stayed. Did she need to stay, though? I don't know. I feel like that wasn't the best use of her 17 years of life, but... PS2 Chipper says, a program can only work as fast as it can process information. That is a fair point. I work on embedded Linux applications, and I wish there was infinite processing power. That is a fair point I did not consider. That's a fair point. And maybe we could say that, Cask as a planet, or their program, or their wherever that the Doctor and Sam were interacting, did have limited, maybe the processing power of Cask is such that, 3 days on Earth is 5 years on Cask. That is that limit. Like, they can't go faster than that. That's fair. I didn't think about that. Nor would I have understood that, because I don't do anything with Linux applications or any other application. So that's fair. I like that explanation. Jonathan G says, I wonder about the amount of memory needed. In the Doctor Who episode, The Girl Who Lived Forever, she slowly lost her memories. The limits of a biological mind. She slowly lost her memories. But do you remember, was that the episode where Clara, like, jumped into the void or whatever to save the Doctor, and like, and she like fractured into all of time and space, but then like the Doctor just like found her and brought her back? Remind me. When Grace says she didn't stay, she went to Risa and wants to hide it. That even makes more sense. I mean, we're assuming there still is a Risa at this time, that it survived the burn. But if it did, yeah, I think her time would have been better spent at Risa. Just like, literally her time would have been better spent in the shuttle for 2 weeks. Just in the shuttle for 2 weeks, reading books, eating soup, drinking tea, like living her best life without her shoes on. That makes more sense to me. But I wonder if, and of course they didn't explain it and it doesn't matter, but I wonder if she needed to stay to like make sure that she would get the Doctor and Sam back. You know, if she needed to be there, otherwise Cass would be like, oh, no organics allowed. Sorry, dude. Like, you left, you can't come back. You know, I wonder if that's like why she would have to stay, but it doesn't seem necessary. She doesn't need to spend 17 years as a castaway by herself, sitting in the shuttle in cask, just like waiting for the Doctor and Sam to come back. C++ is my love language. Is that even how you say that? How you say that programming language? I don't know. Our Town by Thornton Wilder. Okay. Is the real play that they were talking about in this episode. Wingrace says Maisie Williams' episode where she was given immortality and came back a couple times in the Capaldi era. Oh, wait, no. Where she was given immortality and came back a couple times. Nope, I don't remember what you're talking about. I thought I did, but I don't. That was the name of the Doctor. So good. Oh, I said it correctly. Okay, cool. Okay, predictions. So I don't really have a lot of predictions. I don't know what to expect from next week. I mean, I suppose that next week is our penultimate episode. So I did think maybe, like I said this last week, I think that either the intensity will be ramped up next week so that the maximum intensity can happen in the last episode in week 10. In which case, it may be two unrelated storylines, but why would they do that? Or it might be like a two-parter, like a two-part finale where some kind of cliffhanger happens at the end of episode 9 and then it has to be resolved in episode 10. So that might happen. So our next episode might be like a higher intensity, but not maximum intensity. They could do that. Or they could stay on the same level, or even lower it and just do a storyline that's completely separate from whatever they're going to do in the finale. Has nothing to do with finale. They could totally go that direction. I would be fine with that. The only thing I really don't want, which is too late because it's been filmed, but the only thing I don't want is, like I said last week, I don't want a two-part finale where the 10th episode, the last episode, ends on some kind of cliffhanger and then we have to wait till season 2 whenever. I know season 2 just wrapped filming because I saw a post by the actor who plays Jaden who was like, season 2 just finished, woo! You know, so like it's done, but who knows when it'll be released. So I don't want to wait a long time because like it's not 1992, so I don't want to do that anymore. And that was really annoying with Stranger Things, so I don't want to wait a long time. However, you know, if it's not a cliffhanger, I'm cool with waiting. If it is a cliffhanger, I'm going to be super irritated. But we'll see. So maybe next week will be part 1 of a cliffhanger or a totally unrelated storyline. Those are thoughts. I am actually really curious to see if Sam and the Doctor are any different personality-wise next week's episode. I hope they revisit this. Even if it does not need to be the A plot, doesn't even need to be the B plot, but I just need like 1 or 2 scenes or parts of a scene where we see if the Doctor has changed, if he's no longer this big grump, but now he's opened his heart up and let himself love at least one person. I read that it was a 2-parter directed by Jonathan Frakes. So there you go. Answers given. Next week is Jonathan Frakes directed, I believe. Okay, answers given. So I want to see if the Doctor is like, you know, if his heart has grown 3 sizes bigger, if he's going to now, he still can be grumpy, you know, because he still has had a rough, you know, couple centuries of life. But I just wonder if he'll be, even if he's still grumpy, if he's soft towards Sam, if we get moments of Sam being like, hey, Dad, or just something like that, like, oh my gosh, like I would totally melt if like there's just like a moment, or if Sam's like, oh, I was talking to my dad, or just something like that. I don't know, it'd be really sweet. Like I just want to see the Doctor be like nice for a little bit. And then I wonder if Sam is now emotionally mature. Like, is she going to be as enthusiastic as she was before? Is she going to have this like toddler level enthusiasm about life now that she's learned how to balance her emotions? Or will she be more, not regulated? I mean, yes, regulated, but is she going to be more like downshifted emotionally and more mature, right? Is she going to be like, oh yeah, that sounds fun, right? As opposed to being like, oh my gosh, a toothbrush, toothbrushes are awesome. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of a Sam are we going to see? Because one of the reasons why she's a favorite, I think, is her childlike naivete and enthusiasm. It's very infectious and it's very fun, and she's not jaded like literally everyone else on the show. So it brings something fresh to the group. And I think that's why she's a favorite, because she's so guileless. She just doesn't have an ulterior motive, and she's not trying to trick anybody. She doesn't have it, you know, she just is, she is what she is. She says what she says, you know, there's nothing there that she's hiding. And I think that's what makes her a favorite. So if any of that is diminished, I think she'll be less of a favorite, honestly. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if she keeps that enthusiasm, but just like tempers it with more neutrality. I'm not sure. I don't know. So that's something I'm really curious to see. I would love more daddy-daughter time, like I said, because we didn't get this with Data and Lal nearly enough, and I would like a do-over. Yeah, these are they're not even predictions, really. They're just hopes. Hopes for next episode. Now that I know it's a two-parter for sure, that the intensity will like increase, that we'll get to see Sam being a little bit different now in a good way, that we'll get to see the Doctor being a little bit different now in a good way. And since it's a two-parter, we have to set up whatever's going to happen with Braca. I do predict that Braca will die in the two-parter, just because in that same post where the actor who plays Jaden was like, woo, we just wrapped season 2, da-da-da. Somebody had commented, like, I heard the actor who plays Braca. It's like, I heard that he's not in season 2. And Kareem was like, yeah, he's not in season 2. So that made me think Braca dies, and that's why he's not in season 2, because there's no character to be in season 2. But like I mentioned back, I think in the pilot episode, I hope that he doesn't die, because I think he's a really fun bad guy. And I hope he just like escapes somehow, and then I want him to just come back randomly in like season 3 or season 4, and I want it to be a big reveal, like in Wrath of Khan, how it's like the camera's like panning up and the guy's like taking off his mask slowly, and it's like Khan. You know, we didn't know it was going to be him from the title of the movie. We didn't know it was going to be Khan, but like, you know, him doing that and being like, oh my gosh, it's Khan. I kind of want that. I want Braca to come back like way later in just some random bad guy cameo where they're like, who's this person who's trying to kill us? And then he's like, Braca, and you're like, Braca, no, and they could kill him then, right? Like, I kind of want that, because I think that'd be fun for the bad guy to escape. But since he's not in season 2, I feel like he has to die, because they can't put him in prison again. He has shown he can break out of prison, so that would be like a dumb ending. And probably he has to die at the hands of Caleb. If Braca killed Caleb's mom, which I don't think he did, and I don't think that's been implied, but let's just say, if Braca killed Caleb's mom, then Caleb should be the one to kill Braca for like justice or whatever, for like circular revenge, for like ironic, satisfying revenge. But yeah, he killed a bunch of people and he's a bad guy, but like if he has to die, it has to be in some way that somehow atones for everything he's done. So either he sacrifices himself, which doesn't sound like him, or, you know, it's a really satisfying, like Caleb is the one who kills him personally, or it's some kind of loop where he kills himself, like that episode Starship Mine, which I was just talking about, where the bad guys were trying to steal, I don't know, trilithium or something. They were trying to steal some kind of weapon, and then they did steal it, and they flew off with it, and then it blew up on them, and it was like so satisfying that the weapon they were trying to steal to make weapons with killed them. So something like that I could see being a really satisfying ending. But I'm trying to think, like, anything else. They can't put him in prison. They can't really like leave him on a desolate planet. He will escape. I don't know. What are you guys thinking? PS2 Chipper says, okay, I can watch next week's episode. So you're just going to watch the finale? You're just going to watch the last 2 episodes. I hope they're good. If those are the 2 you're choosing, I hope they're good. When Grace says, if they hadn't ruined the zygote joke, it would be a good callback next episode to call him the zygotes, but affectionate. To call them the zygotes, but affectionately. Yeah, if they didn't kill it, it would be sweet for him to say zygotes without this, like, without his snarkiness of him being like, listen up, zygotes. But instead, if he was like, listen up, zygotes, you know, it was like a softer, like, Tilly version. Yeah, it would have been a nice callback. If he'd only done it one time before and then he did it only one time again, it'd be a callback. But since they just kept doing it, yeah, like I kind of never want to hear it again. They even did it in this episode. The Doctor didn't, but Ake did when she was walking with Tilly, like walking Tilly to the exit or whatever, and she was like, "How was it being with the zygotes?" And it was just like, does anybody like this cute little nickname? Because I don't. DJ Magic says that the Doctor will still be grumpy, but now grumpy in the mindset of a father protecting his child. That is interesting. Like, F around and find out, Dad. Ooh, that is interesting. So DJ Magic, do you think that we're going to have the Doctor suddenly being some kind of helicopter parent for Sam and being like, Sam, you can't go on those away missions. Sam, I don't like you doing XYZ. Because that would be interesting. And then we get to see the rebel of Sam of being like, Dad, let me go on the away mission or whatever. That would be really interesting. I mean, once again, they're young adults, so like they should be past that phase already, but clearly they still act like they're in high school. So I'm not totally sure, you know, and Sam's 17. So I guess they're all like between 17 and 19 or something. They're yeah, barely out of high school, sort of young adults. DJ Magic says, I think Sam will be a bit more calm, but will still be bewildered by things. And I'm not sure if that's the right word. Yeah, I think that's fine. PS2 Chipper says we should do a Voyage Home watch party. I actually just watched Voyage Home, no joke, for the first time this weekend, like a few days ago. And I had seen the whales part, the space whales part, but I didn't know, but that's the only part I saw. And I didn't know which movie it was from or the context or why there were whales in space. I just remember seeing it as a kid and being like, space whales, that's the coolest thing ever. So I just watched it a couple days ago and I was like, space whales, that's the coolest thing ever. Yeah, the movie made me laugh out loud. Like the part where Scotty's like, hello, computer. I laughed out loud. Like that was so funny. I did enjoy the movie. I did. It was very like dated of the times, but also just, I don't know. And I did a watch party with a couple friends. So yeah, we were just like laughing and joking the whole time. It was great. It was great. But so now I've seen Wrath of Khan. Now I've seen Voyage Home. I have not seen, what's the first one? Motion Picture. I haven't seen What's After when The Search for Spock. And then I feel like there's one more in there. I've seen Generations, but I feel like there's one more in there that I haven't seen. I haven't seen the TOS ones. DJ Magic says, Braca dies, Caleb kills him. Pirate Mom, oh yeah, that one. Pirate Mom assigned Braca as Caleb's guardian to make sure he lives, but has a hard life, so he will eventually turn on Starfleet. Caleb offs him for knowing his mom lives. Interesting. That was the other thing, DJ Magic, I was going to say, is maybe Caleb's, because you had the whole theory of Caleb's mom being the pirate queen, which I just loved. Every time I say pirate queen, I just picture Tendi and I just picture like Orion's, but I love this idea of his mom being alive, but a bad guy. And, you know, this idea that Caleb has to choose between loyalty to Starfleet and loyalty to his mother, and that she's the one who kills Braca would be really satisfying, because that would show that she's really bad. She can even kill the baddest bad guy, you know? But then you'd be like, yeah, but she did it for good reasons or whatever. I don't know. I think that would be a satisfying ending. Undiscovered Country. Okay. Yeah. And Final Frontier. Nope. No, have not seen those. Have not seen those either. Dang, how many movies are there? Every time I turn around, it's like another movie. PS2 Chipper says, I would suggest watching the motion picture, but might be a sleeping pill for you. Yeah, I've heard it's like, I don't know. I'll watch them all eventually, but there's no rush because those movies aren't going anywhere. Yeah, 6. There's 6 movies, but it feels like they keep multiplying. Okay, so that is it. That is it for me. I will see you guys next week, same time, same channel, to talk about part 1. I'm so glad that you told me it's a 2-parter, because that tells me we will get closure in episode 10. We're not gonna have this open loop until next season. We're just gonna finish the story and we're gonna go on with our lives, which is what I need right now. I need closure. So I watched all the TNG movies. I watched all the Kelvin movies. I watched Section 31. I'll watch whatever movies come out next, but I have not seen all the TOS movies. So that's still on the list. That's their favorite line from a Trek movie. Okay. Yes. So I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for those of you who came live. Thank you so much for those of you joining on the replay. And next week we will review season 1, episode 9 of Starfleet Academy. We are at the home stretch. Super exciting. So I will see you all next time. Night.